Okay, so here we are again. I think technically this goes into part 4 of the trying to get the Kansept Main Street to where we're happy with it. Currently we have had modifications where we changed the bearings out for thick phosphor bronze washers that we got through Skiff Bearings. We also tried installation of aftermarket springs. The first time we tried to use some Benchmade springs, they did not fit. The second time we tried to, we ordered some aftermarket springs off of Amazon that came in various sizes. We ended up finding the large ones would not fit on the inside of the cutout of the scales, but the smaller ones did. And we ended up leaving those installed, and that's where we currently are. So we have detent's a bit better, but it does not take much here to get this blade out. So one of the things we talked about, and look at that, looks like I didn't even put the pocket clip back on tight. That's hilarious. We talked about maybe ordering some replacement springs from Kansept. I did find them on their website. So that's what we have here. And when I ordered the set, it was about $8. I don't know if it came with 2 sets of springs that are the same size. So these are the originals that came out of the Main Street. So you can see they have kind of an unusual presentation. And when I saw these springs on their website, is that in fact they did not have that outward appearance. Just a quick disclaimer, I made a mistake. These are actually not the Kansept springs. You will see the Kansept springs in the next video. These are just a different version of the aftermarket springs from Amazon. Thanks. So here's the replacement that they sent me. Isn't that interesting? You know, I'm working from the assumption that since these were made for the Main Street, that theoretically at least they will have better tension. Maybe they've addressed the tension issue. So let's say we hook this one on. Nice. Pretty easy to get in here. So now what we'll need to do is get the pivot tool. There we go. Okay, so we're all done. That was an absolute pain in the rear. I will tell you, this knife, maybe after this being the 4th time I've gone into it, dealing with the same issue, at some point, maybe I'm just getting a little bit aggravated with it. I mean, we had before where there was almost no detent. I'm not sure this is a lot better than the other aftermarket, but one thing I did notice is, listen to this. So when I was shaking it with the generic aftermarket, you could hear the blade bouncing. Hear that? You can hear the lock rattle a little bit, but in terms of the blade, it's not going anywhere. And now we've actually got it tight enough that there's no blade play, where before, to keep that detent, I had to have this pivot so loose as to actually feel the blade moving. So I'm thinking let's get some heavy Loctite on here so that when we get it somewhat happy, we can leave it alone and let it. All right, so I think I've got it as good as we're gonna get it. Tweaking, tweaking, tweaking. I could make the argument that if, and I think I said this before after the initial aftermarket, if this knife came like this, with this level of action and this detent, I think I'd be really happy. I've got no blade play. I have pretty good tension on the spring. It's pretty centered. I like the feel of this. I think on the bearings, it was just maybe with the weight of the blade, it just flew around. And I think this is much, for me, can't speak to anyone else, but for me, this seems to be much more effective. I'm just going to put a tiny drop of heavy. This is something I've found helps with these bar locks, just not getting that stick. Just put a single drop on each side. I can hold the knife. I can give it a little shake. I mean, I can't go crazy, obviously, but it's not just falling. Look at that. I mean, I hate to say it, as irritated as I've been with this might actually be a success at this point. All right, so James, give me your impression.
It's holding the blade in really well.
Okay, let's see if you do like the little shaking. Does it just fly out?
No.
What do you think?
I like it. I think it's better.
You got any blade play?
Mm-mm.
So if that knife came like that, would you have any complaints?
Probably not now.
Okay, so that little sidebar was just the impression of a young knife enthusiast who has been on this journey with me with this knife from the beginning. So, as I said earlier, if this knife came like this, whether there would be no complaints, and this knife over the time would have been carried and used extensively. Here's the reality, guys. The knife didn't come like this. This has taken an incredible amount of tweaking. Still have to fine-tune, adjust everything just right so that you don't somehow affect the lock bar and it creating a detent-like action. Being that I've put a lot of effort into it, maybe this is one that, especially since I have it on washers now, and I can take some personal pride in, so I'll probably carry it and enjoy it, and it'll be a good story. And I suspect after these washers break in, look at that, even already, just with the slightest little effort, this may be a very enjoyable knife. Thanks for joining us today, and hit that subscribe button. See you soon.